Oh, hello, everybody. What's up? This is the Whiskey Rebels. We are on the Voluntary Virtues Network. This is our first attempt at a show, so please bear with us. We have no idea what the fuck we're doing, but we're going to have fun with this. So, to start out, I'm going to drink some whiskey. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the injustice system, and I have a guest he's actually kind of more like my co-host. His name is Eros, and we're going to talk about the injustice system. We're also going to talk about a story about a local judge who got in trouble for getting in a fight with a public defender. So, Eros, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
And now this is Eros. He is it's Eros, named after the Greek god of love, and he's going to talk about a story. Go ahead, Eros.
So yeah, this is a story that caught our interest because for two reasons. It demonstrates a lot of the problems inherent in our injustice system, and also because it's happening in our county here in Florida, Brevard County, Florida. I want to go ahead and put on the screen the story. If you would just give me a minute. Can you see that, Jason?
Yes. Yeah, I see it now.
So, in a nutshell, what happened was a public defender was trying to avoid the pressure that the court places on the defenders and the prosecutors to force clients into waiving their right to a speedy trial, which is our down in our Sixth Amendment, one of our rights, and down in the Sixth Amendment. This is an inconvenience for the courts, and it became a problem in the courtroom, and the judge and the prosecutor got into an argument, and at one point in the argument, the judge asked the prosecutor to step outside to fight, and I guess the prosecutor thought that they were just going to step outside and actually talk this out. But when the prosecutor stepped outside,
Now, this wasn't the prosecutor. This was the public defender, right?
oh yeah, I'm sorry, it was a public defender. The public defender stepped outside. It was reported by a couple of witnesses that the judge grabbed him and started to assault him, started to punch him. So the altercation was broken up by a deputy, one of the bailiffs, and the defender was reassigned to another area of the building, and the judge returned to the bench to try the rest of the cases for the day. And really, the problem, the main part of this story is not that the judge assaulted a public defender. It's really about the attitude towards any defendant trying to exercise their rights, and how the judge and how the justice system sees people's rights. That's really the main reason we wanted to bring up the story. Well, and the fight, it makes it a little bit more interesting.
So you actually know this Judge Murphy, right?
Yeah,
he's in our county, so you're pretty familiar with the justice system in our county here.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I'm familiar with a little too familiar with the justice system here in Brevard County, Florida. So since it hits so close to home, that's probably one of the main reasons we decided to start off our show with this story.
The court pressures people to accept plea deals and to waive their rights to a speedy trial.
Well, when you first come into a courtroom, before the judge comes in and takes a seat on the bench, they hand you paperwork. They hand you the paperwork to waive your right to a speedy trial. Uh, the reason that they don't want you to invoke that right is because it becomes a scheduling problem. So now they have to go out of their way to make sure that you get a trial within a certain amount of time. Not sure how much time, but it's a short amount of time they have to actually get the case resolved. And this causes problems because there's so many people being arrested and being processed through the system that if too many people invoke that right, they wouldn't have the resources to actually try all the cases that they try. So what they do is they get people to waive their rights first, and then and usually it doesn't happen all the time, but most of the time they get offered a plea agreement, meaning that they get offered a implied lesser sentence than they would if they take the trial if they take the case to court.
Sorry that I don't have the statistics right in front of me, but it's something like 95 or 98% of criminal cases will be plead out and never go to trial. Is that something that you've heard as well?
You know, actually, I haven't heard that until you told me that. But from my experience in a courtroom, a few people show up to a courtroom with representation. And I'm not talking about public defenders. Public defenders don't count as representation. They don't represent your interest. They represent the interest of the state, meaning that they're there to guide you through the process, right? But not necessarily look out for your interest. So they're not going to go out of their way to defend you. They have no resources to defend you, to do an investigation, to spend time to researching your case. They don't have any of that. They're there as a formality to get to see you through the process and make sure that you don't become a burden to the state by, for example, representing yourself or invoking your right to a speedy trial. See, they don't much care if you go to trial, as long as you waive your right to a speedy trial. And once you do that, they have all the time in the world to prosecute you.
Yeah, and intimidate you and everything like that. What are some of the misconceptions that your average person would have about the judicial system, and where do you think they get those misconceptions?
As a defendant, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have the right to representation, which is to some degree guaranteed, right? You have the right to be represented, and up until recently, you actually had the right to a public defender. That's slowly changing, but that's a different topic. But the biggest misconception is for most people who haven't experienced the court system in a criminal matter, is that the public defenders are there to protect your interests, to argue for you, to basically try to win your case. That's really the furthest from the truth. Their interest is to help the judge and the prosecutor to expedite cases, to get them through the system as quickly as possible by convincing you to waive your right to a speedy trial, and usually convincing you to accept a plea agreement that's usually offered by the defense.
Threatening you, basically. Yeah,
it's an ultimatum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're telling you, look, you have a choice. You can accept our agreement, our punishment for your guilty plea. I mean, for your admission of guilt. But if you try to argue, we want to let you know that you may be facing some serious time. And it's usually in a threatening manner. It's not nice. It's very clear statement that if you don't take the plea agreement and you take it to trial, you're not going to get a favorable outcome.
Well, I know in this, going back to the specific case we're discussing, the thing that pisses me off is that then the defendant's like, oh, thank you, Judge, thank you. and, you know, walks away. And then you had all the people sitting there waiting to be judged by this disgusting motherfucker in a robe. They're sitting there waiting to be judged, and they clap. They applaud this guy for beating up a mouthy lawyer that was defending his client's rights, and they applaud this fucking petty tyrant bullshit.
Yeah, the
Meanwhile, they're sitting there. They refuse to judge him on his blatantly immoral behavior, while they're waiting, just sitting there waiting for him to cast his judgment on them. It's just fucked up, man.
chances are there was at least a few people in that courtroom who were there for lesser crimes than assault. A crime which was just perpetrated by the fucking guy who's supposed to be judging you impartially.
You've been arrested for a lot of victimless crimes, right? Can you just give a quick little list of some of the ridiculous shit you've been arrested for? I know a few of these because I've been your friend for more than a few years.
No.
You were arrested once with the only charge was resisting arrest. So you're arrested for resisting arrest.
No, it gets better than that. I was arrested for resisting arrest without violence, but there was no initial charge. This is very common. This happens all the time. Getting arrested for resisting arrest, that being your only charge, the only offense was that you mouthed off to the cop, called him an asshole.
But one we forgot to even mention was when you were working at a psychiatric hospital and you got arrested while you were on the job, on duty, with the charge nurse. You and the charge nurse, who was in charge of this unit of psychiatric patients, got arrested for interfering in a police investigation because you had a combative patient. Someone called 911, and the cops just took over everything. And you tried to say no, we have everything under control, and the cop threw you against the wall and arrested you. Is that kind of what happened?
You want to elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, not really. All you got to do is say yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's actually.
Because I mean, we only have a half hour. We won't have time to go over all your arrests. For God's sakes.
That could fill up a couple of shows.
Why do you think the justice system has grown to be so ridiculous and corrupt? Do you think it's just because it's a monopoly on force? Because we're forced to use this government service? Why do you think it's become like this?
They make money, the court system, the judicial system, through the increasing the number of crimes, increasing the severity of punishments, fines, fees. There's no incentive to see, less crime. There's an incentive to actually increase crime by making more laws and arresting more people.
They make money off it, and then they socialize the expenses. They're able to socialize expenses, and they, if they're inefficient, that's fine, because they're the only game around. They're monopoly. They're a monopoly on the market there. So they can be inefficient. They can make problems. They can piss people off. It doesn't matter, and they have their customers are not the American people.
No.
So they don't have to answer the customers. They get to socialize their losses, and they get a monopoly. So all those things together, that's how corruption forms. And the point I wanted to get in is that it's very apparent, especially in the judicial system, of how we treat statism like a religion. We use these in court. We use these ritualistic temples, the courthouses with the pillars. They wear costumes, these fucking gowns and dresses and shit. They have gavels. You have to rise. You have to call them the hell do they call them?
Your Honor.
Your on, yeah, of course, yeah, Your Honor. Basically, it's just a way to instill obedience and reverence for authority in the people and keep it going. And it works. I mean, you've told me that when you go to court, you get very. It's just an air of intimidation. You get intimidated, and you feel like you have to, play their game almost because they own that place. It's I don't. That's why I don't even. I never want to go to court because I feel like that's their playground there. They do whatever the fuck they want, basically.
Dude, they got me by the balls, man. I get nervous driving by the courthouse, even when I don't have pending cases. It's a fear, man. They've trained me to fear, and it works, man. They fucking scare the shit out of you. And like I said, all those charges, all victimless crimes. Well,
because we didn't even mention the time that you got your jacket stolen, and then you got jumped, your ass kicked,
okay.
And then you got arrested. Then you got arrested for that.
Yeah, Georgia, Athens, Georgia. So we go to a pizza place, a little trashed. I get my jacket stolen, so I'm the victim of a theft. I go outside and I'm assaulted by a group of guys. So not only am I a victim of theft, I'm a victim of assault. And when everything was done, I was arrested and taken to jail for the night. Had to go to court 3 more times after that. The third time, the prosecutor said that she saw the videotape from the pizza place and that she wasn't going to prosecute a case where somebody got their ass kicked. That's her exact words. So yeah, enough about my extensive criminal background. You have some statistics here that you wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah, just some basic ones that most people probably know, but I just want to. They're very important statistics to me, so I'm going to throw them out there. The United States now has the largest prison system ever per capita, and that's more than China. That's more than China during Mao. That's more than Russia during Stalin, during the gulags, whatever. It's more than Hitler. I mean, it's ridiculous. Another statistic is, if you guys haven't heard it, is democide. Democide in the 20th century. Democide being murder by government. It counts up to 262 million people died at the hands of their own government in the 20th century. This was more than all the wars put together. And, of course, it was all of these were committed by men just following orders from their authorities. And that just goes to show you that centralized political power is the most dangerous thing on Earth. I mean, it was the #1 cause of death in the 20th century. Another statistic, not statistic, but just another fact, is that people think that nowadays that the government has gotten unconstitutional and has overstepped the bounds of the Constitution. No. They have always overstepped the bounds of the Constitution. Citizens have been caged for sedition, starting with John Adams. I'm sure it even happened before him, but he passed the Alien and Sedition laws, which is sedition is you just talk shit about the government and they put you in jail. Lincoln, of course, was a tyrant. He put many members of the press, politicians even, citizens, in jail for disagreeing with him. Woodrow Wilson during World War I, they put tons of people in jail, anti-war activists, were going to jail for that. Of course, the FDR during World War II, anti-war people were put in jail. Many people know about this now, which they never learned about it in history class. But FDR put Japanese American citizens in concentration camps, as well as German American citizens. Not as many, but he put people in concentration camps.
Yeah.
This things that they did to their own citizens that that one actually was approved, went all the way to the Supreme Court. The concentration camp thing went all the way to the Supreme Court and was approved by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I was telling you this.
The court does not stop any of this. It does not, any of this injustice. The court does not stop it. It enables it.
The Constitution. This is all for show. This is theatrics. This is a play. You know what I mean? Just to convince us that there's some legitimacy, that there's some type of justice, there's some type of order, fairness. None of that exists. Doesn't. And again, going back to the video of the judge, I think that the reason I like that video so much is that it shows so much in one small portion of time. You see a judge committing a felony in a courtroom while he's judging other people. Okay, so there you see the
hypocrisy,
the double standards. And then he goes back to the courtroom, and then you get to witness one of the most depressing fucking things I've ever seen. People clapping, applauding the judge as if he's done something honorable, something just. You know what I mean? And not just average people, but people who are there waiting to be judged by this hypocrite, this degenerate, the one of the probably worst human beings, an individual who's so sadistic in his actions that he actually is somehow able to justify kidnapping people, imprisoning them for non-violent, victimless crimes, right? And somehow convince other people that he's doing some good. Like I said, I think that the judicial system is sadistic. I believe that these fuckers get off on it. They like the idea that they can imprison somebody for life.
Supreme Court hardly ever, very rarely, actually makes a unconstitutional ruling. It's been a number of years before they even have made an unconstitutional ruling. And what do people think? People think that's what Supreme Court does. They decide what's constitutional and what's not. Well, supposedly they have not even ruled anything unconstitutional in many, many, many years. And they also refuse to hear many cases. So it's only a very select amount of cases that they actually hear. So the thing you hear on TV shows about, oh, well, we can just take it to the Supreme Court, yeah, it ain't going to work like that.
So you ever think about cops? You ever think about, all the pictures of cops rescuing fucking babies and rescuing kittens, dogs? Why do they become so popular? And why are they promoted so much?
Because people want to believe that cops are doing good.
Well, but here's the contrast, man. Why would you feel the need to convince people that you're doing good? Because most of what you do is fucking evil. If I was doing good all the time, I wouldn't need to convince people I was doing good. It'd be obvious. It'd be apparent. You wouldn't need a public relations campaign. When New York did that public relations campaign, right? Why did the fucking cops feel the need to do a public relations campaign to convince people that they are good? It's because they're truly evil. If you resort to violence to have to fucking convince people, not even convince people, manipulate people, right? You're not even allowing people the opportunity to fucking form their own thoughts and opinions. Then how can people not realize that you're on the wrong fucking side if you're the one holding the baton? You know what I mean? What is wrong with people? I mean, like, one thing that drew me to fucking anarchist is the basic principle of leaving people the fuck alone. That
That's an important one.
who
Yeah.
the fucking argue? There is not a living soul that can argue against that. Leave people alone, right? If he's leaving you alone, don't fuck with him. Simple as that. Not fucking with me, I'm not gonna fuck with you. I'm gonna go about my business. You're gonna go about your business. We're fucking too happy. Business about going people, right? So the most important question is most people are going to be asking is what are our alternatives to the justice system?
Well, sometimes it's hard for people to imagine, but there's a lot of people that have written books on it, articles on it. You can have a voluntary, polycentric private law system. You can have a contract-based system where everyone in that system has a contract with other people. So it's all written out beforehand and voluntary. You can market-based dispute resolution organizations or different kinds of insurance companies for people for authors to look into for this. Of course, you can look at Bastiat's The Law. That'll give you just a basic thing to it. David Friedman, who actually was a recent guest on Mike Shanklin's show, he has a great book called The Machinery of Freedom that goes over a lot of this stuff. He's written articles on all kinds of different legal systems that we've had in the past. Robert Murphy has a couple books and a couple articles, especially on Mises.org, that go over a lot of this. Stefan Molyneux has a book called Practical Anarchy, where he goes over a lot of the how the dispute resolution organizations would work. The Tannehills, Morris and Linda Tannehill wrote a book called Market for Liberty, has a great stuff in there. Of course, Murray Rothbard has some good stuff. Just something to get you started. Mostly, I don't have an answer myself. I always just say that I don't have an answer because I'm not a dictator over everyone. So I don't have to come up with an answer for everyone. I know moral system and a justice system that I would like, but as far as in practice, that is best taken care of by a free market and voluntary interactions.
So basically, what you're saying is any solution has to be voluntary.
Yes, any solution that's voluntary would be a million times better than what we have now, because what we have now is not voluntary.
It's a monopoly.
Yeah, it's a forced monopoly on violence. So, no.
So, well, so what can the individual do now
Excuse me.
to work to actually making the transition between a monopolistic system of violence and making that transition over to a voluntary system?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things you can do. It's pretty much up to the individual, of course, what you think is best. I have my own opinions, but a lot of people do civil disobedience, which is just ignoring the laws. Doing your time, going to jail. If you don't believe in the law, then just go to jail. Henry David Thoreau did that. Things like jury nullification, which is kind of working within the law, but using it against itself. Organizations like Cop Block that I know you're a fan of. They kind of hold judges, police accountable for what they do. From what they say, judges, police still say that they want to uphold justice, so they should be held accountable as possible for that. A couple things that I'm more champion of is agorism, which is using alternative systems to undermine the main system. So to use alternative justice system, you can use arbitration systems. For example, divorce. Many people now are starting to use arbitrators for divorce proceedings because it's so much cheaper, more amicable. There's actually a website called Judge.me right now that is just a bunch of arbitrators, and you can go there instead of going to court. Another thing that is interesting are distributed autonomous blockchain technologies. I'm not going to completely get into that now because it's kind of cutting edge kind of technology shit. But it's basically you can put law into computer code, into the algorithm of a computer program, so that when people voluntarily use the system, they have to abide by these rules, or else they can't use the system. Everything's baked into the system. So that's kind of interesting. Like Bitcoin, basically. Bitcoin is probably one of the first distributed autonomous corporations. Nobody controls it. It's all in the code. So by using it, you are abiding by the laws. If you don't abide by the laws, you can't even use it. It automatically doesn't let you use it.
But you would want multiple systems so that people have a choice.
Oh yeah, and that's when I said in the beginning the polycentric law. That's basically like you would have many different systems of justice competing against each other, because we all need food. We all need food. We all need shoes. We all need shelter. But you have different companies competing to give us a good product, and they're constantly competing. The prices are going down. But with justice, we have a monopoly. There's no competing companies there. So that's what we need. We need competing justice firms. And I think if we have competing justice firms, we won't have cops beating the shit out of people as much. We won't have injustice. We won't have rogue judges. So I think it'll be a lot better.
So, don't you think that the idea of separate states initially was conceived to have multiple jurisdictions where laws varied, and people had the ability to choose live in a different state with relatively different laws, and if they didn't like those laws, they could move to another state that had exactly.
But even before then, the Articles of Confederation was a very loose document, and basically it was just a treaty. It was mostly just a treaty between the states and saying that they can trade and that they would defend each other. But other than that, it was pretty much, there were hardly any federal laws at all before the Constitution. So yeah, it was very much a polycentric system at that point. So it was more of a polycentric. Of course, when you get local, a state was pretty big, so it wasn't exactly a polycentric system. Like, you couldn't opt out of it. If you were the problem with our system now is you are held to these laws just because you popped out of your mother's vagina at some point in a certain geographic area. So that's how it works today. But if you have polycentric law, you could actually choose which security organizations protected your property, which judges you wanted, Um, you choose many different things, and then there different organizations do this now. Plenty of organizations have bylaws. They have rules that they follow. You don't need the force, the monopolization of force like our justice system has right now.
So you're saying that this is hard for me to believe. You don't need to violently force people to do things. Is that what you're saying? I'm having a hard time
Yeah,
believing
yeah,
it.
that's pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah, I
So
my
if I wanted you to do something for me, it'd probably be better if I didn't come over to your house with a baseball bat and make you do it.
well, let me just say that if your idea needs to be forced on people, then it probably ain't a good fucking idea.
Exactly. All right. Yeah.
One more thing I want to talk about uh, before we before
All
we end this up is the what you can do as an individual for a better and more free system. Well, you can at least start thinking about what kind of defensive force uh, would be necessary in certain situations. Um, Now, by that, I mean that everyone has a line. Everyone needs to figure out where their line is. Is your line, a cop beating the shit out of you for no reason? Is your line somebody stealing from you? Is your line when government agents are taking you off to some kind of camp to be slaughtered, or they have a gun at your head? What? Everybody has a line. Are they threatening your family to kill all your family, to throw you in jail for 80 or 100 years? Everybody has some kind of line where you're like, okay, well, this isn't right. Maybe I should fight back and defend myself. So, everybody should think about when that line is with a defensive force. I mean, definitely not advocating anything impractical or stupid,
Yeah.
but it's up to the individual. It's up to the individual what you think, what your line is. But you should think about it because you know it usually happens. It usually happens with societies like ours, empires like ours that grow so large, and then what happens is they become totalitarian, and many people get killed. Like we said earlier, 262 million people in the 20th century were killed. So that's something to be aware about. Don't just try to put it in the back of your mind and say, nah, it could never happen here.
I mean, but that's what
Uh,
people seem to do all the time.
yeah, and people should look into, if you want to look into that, look into some Larkin Rose's some of Larkin Rose's articles and videos. Christopher Cantwell had some articles on this. But it doesn't hurt just to think about things like this because it can happen. Maybe if you're not into the whole defensive force thing, you're not exactly sure where your line is. Maybe you should start preparing to uh, maybe get out of the country or hunker down somewhere. Prepare for things, because it might get worse. You never know.
But isn't this where the idea of bread and theater comes in? Where what you just talked about is dangerous theater.
Bread and circuses.
Bread and circus. What you just said is a dangerous concept. You just ask people to start thinking about things that have occurred, most likely will occur again, and it's not really in the state's best interest for people to start thinking about shit like that. So the minute you start to think about shit like that, uh, you just even thinking, you become a dissident.
Yeah, this is going on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the point of no return. Can't go back from talking shit. No.
That's all right. We'll edit some of this shit.
Oh, yo.
All right, so that concludes our show tonight. We are going to our goal for future shows is going to be just having a good time, drinking whiskey, maybe having some good guests on, and maybe exploring some topics that may be a little politically incorrect or may not be covered by other shows. So that's my goal. I would also, if anyone, any listeners, watchers want to come on the show, have a special topic they want to debate, come on. I'll debate anyone. I'm not afraid to lose a debate. Just let me know, and we'll go with that. So this is the Whiskey Rebels, and we're signing off.
Signing off. Cheers.